All of us are racers. So deadly passion. Our terrible joy.
No wonder we'd be back.
How can I stay away?
Eventually is looking for a scapegoat. Then here I am.
Tell us, why was Enzo Ferrari a character you wanted to spend some time with?
Sidney Pollack, Troy Katie Martin, and I started this in 1994. And the fortuitous accident that there was this kind of fractal of these 4 months that happened in 1957, and all the opera, the drama, the tumultuous, passionate romances and everything going around, and the tragedy, the death of Dino, a young son yearning for his father, Pietro. The collision of all these kind of became the quintessential story of Enzo. Everything he had been and everything he was going to be all collided in this 1 4-month period. So it was always the story. And then it took a long time to get it made. And every time I thought of perhaps, I should really perhaps abandon it, I'd pick up the screenplay again and get to maybe page 2 when I was hooked all over again. And also the specific modern essay wit, something I really related to in a very strong way.
John, this is a pretty ambitious movie to make independently. Can you tell us why it was made outside the studio system?
Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but the studio's not really interested in making original movies anymore. I mean, for the most part, this would be a movie that they would have made years ago. This is a movie that needed to get made, and the only way we could get it made was the way that we got it made. And it's a tribute to Michael and his tenaciousness and all the actors and everybody kind of working in a way independently, which means like for less money. And it's,
a lot less money.
It's stories like this have to get told, and we'll find one way or the other way to do it. And it took a whole lot. I don't know if you noticed how many producer credits are on the movie, but every single one of those people really made a difference to help get this movie made, and without them we wouldn't be sitting up here. So I'm sitting here representing a whole lot of other people who really helped get this movie made, and it was really like a labor of love for everybody.
Yeah. Erik, I read that Michael's note to you was that he wanted it to look like a Caravaggio painting. What do you do with that information?
You have a big glass of wine. Yeah, I mean, we sat down and we started talking about Italian painting and particularly, the Venetian school, Renaissance, kind of early Renaissance portraiture, and it's an obvious connection, and then we went and Michael showed me a number of photographs he had taken over the course of prepping the movie, and I immediately got completely seduced and sucked into it because, he's very thorough, and it's to me that's what Italy looks like. That's just what Italy looks like. We leaned heavily into that idea and hopefully passed it on.
Roberto, we were joking upstairs. I asked you, how close were you to the action? And Michael said, I always like to make him a little uncomfortable. You've worked together before. Truly, though, how close were you, and what was the experience like of shooting these cars?
Those cars are not too big. There's not a lot of space. And Michael likes to use this scaleoscope. Is a lens, an additional lens that you put in front of the real lens. You can go really close to the actor. I feel what the pilot feel, You go fast and the noise, and I think I'm privileged to be there.
Yeah. Pietro, one of my favorite scenes from an editing standpoint is the opera. And we're going back and forth between the opera and these flashbacks. Can you talk a little bit about editing that scene?
Michael wanted to have live singing on stage. He was really particular that. So you can't find an opera that we had and just find people to use it as just a musical track, as a playback to sing. So with the singers, we rehearsed, we recorded it, but we allowed them also to have their own recording with the music in their ear. So when they're actually singing on the close-up, that's actually live singing. That makes it very, very intimate and real, the sound. I love the way Andy mixed it in terms of, I mean, everybody is involved in the opera in the singing in different perspective, but it is in their heart. You're really in it, as close as you're with the actors.
Andy, one moment where I really noticed the mix, and I had a lot of fun with it, is the scene when they're in church and they're all hitting the stopwatches, listening to the Maserati test. And it seems like there's a lot you had to calibrate there. You've got revving engines, you've got the dialogue, you've got the watches. Can you talk a little bit about that mix?
I mean, we initially started with the stopwatches, for instance, just the couple that we saw in shot. But it became very obvious that the point of the story was that they were all in the workers' mass, but really they weren't paying attention to what was going on outside. So we sort of doubled up and tripled up, and we've ended up with about 40 or 50 different watches all ticking, so that it filled the atmosphere in there. And then the cutting backwards and forwards, I mean, it was very dynamic because, of course, the Maserati had such a deep, wonderful, throbbing sound to it, and then, of course, the beautiful singing in the church, and then the watches. So it was a melody, but putting those three elements together in itself was like a piece of music almost.
So did you find by the end of this, you know the difference between the sound of a Maserati and the sound of a Ferrari?
Yes, they are very different. And, the beauty of recording them afterwards, because as Michael explained, they were modern engines for shooting. But of course the film had been cut, and so we could actually pick very carefully the pieces we needed to record, because we had to get those cars from people like Nick Mason's collection to record. But we could give very specific instructions of what pieces we needed, the downshifts, the accelerations, the cornering, and we could drop them in almost like ADR with an actor's voice, and that's how we put together the racing sounds. Yeah.
What was the Ferrari family's involvement?
It was essential. I've known Pietro for about 20 years. And we're kind of the beneficiary of a lot of trust and faith. I wanted him to read the screenplay very early on. He didn't want to. You can imagine the sensitivity. First of all, he is, as characterized here, there's an Italian expression which means the son in waiting. That's the son in the second family waiting for maybe the father will come home tonight, maybe he won't. So it's a very anxious way to be raised. And it portrays his mother and his father's relationships with Lara, who was hostile to Pietro for the duration of her life. She used to go into the factory when Pietro went to work in the factory when he was 19, and with a cane and slam it on the desk and said, "Where's the bastard?" This is the... So there's a lot of sensitivity. He's a very bright man. He's a very skilled engineer, aircraft engineer, and he's as well as being vice chairman of Ferrari now. But there was also Lena Lardi's niece, who everybody said in the family is very similar to Lena Lardi. And there was Laura's doctor, who revealed to us letters that no one had ever seen before, that Enzo wrote to Lara late in life that are very affectionate and romantic. So when you asked me the first question, what was so interesting about this? It's the contradictory nature of all these people, the complexity of these characters, which is so fascinating. I find that in fiction we build characters with contradictions, we make conflict happen, and it all resolves at the end of the movie. It doesn't happen that way in life. We carry our contradictions to the grave. And so the unresolved nature, the asymmetry of these people and their relationships with each other, that's what really was central to my commitment to it.
How much were your drivers who we see on screen, how much were we watching actors? How much were we watching professional drivers?
Well, you're watching both, but particularly Patrick Dempsey is a professional driver. He's had a couple of podium finishes at Le Mans, and so he's doing all his own driving. Yes, Taruffi, and when it was realistic, the guys drove themselves some of it, and then other times there were professional drivers. In some cases, we had professional drivers be the actors. So Sterling Moss is a professional driver, the actor playing him.
I think one of my favorite scenes is the one where Penelope Cruz is confronting, Laura is confronting Enzo, and it's just a very emotionally powerful scene. I wonder if we could end with you talking about what that was like to shoot, and I'm, interested in.
Well, I guess that kind of drives to what Erik was talking about the lighting, and the thing that we admired about Caravaggio, and we talked about it quite a bit, is that the light was contrived to not be directed. It's light. The room is lit, and then the actors move through it, and the paintings as well. So it lands. A slash of light will land on a knee, a hand, and pick up something else. It's designed, but it doesn't look designed. It looks like it's objective reality put that light there. And so when Enzo comes into the room, he sits in the dark, and then when the fight between Enzo and Laura starts taking place, then he moves into the light, and
Very powerfully done. Well, I thank you so much for being here. I thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.